listen, never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There is no human being on the planet that I would rather have on this podcast right now than Rich Hill. And it's not just because he's wearing a Japanese baseballs and boring shirt. Do you wear that shirt around, Rich? Have you worn?
Oh, yeah.
So
I get, what is that? Everybody says, what is that? What is that?
Do you get a lot of that? Do people do you scurry to their phone for Google Translate, or do they ask you and what do you tell them?
I just say it's baseball isn't boring. It says baseball isn't boring. Maybe this way. I don't know which way it is. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know. We're 98% sure it's correct. The 2% comes from Joe Kelly, who insists that there's some hyphenation that's off. But no, I'm saying that the baseballs and boring Japanese shirts are correct. They are in the hands of all the important people, including you, Rich. So
yes, thank you. It's official.
It's official. So with that being said, the first thing I want to ask you is, you've always been a big proponent of baseball not being boring, but have you had a whole new perspective of baseball not being boring through the eyes of coaching young men, kids, while the major leaguers are playing, which is something that you've never done before? Do you have a new perspective of things?
Yeah, I think just the joy, honestly, watching the kids go out there and now it's little league ages that I've been working with, and our son is 12, so he's on the last year of his little league tour here, and but it's been great watching the 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids just kind of come into their own and make mistakes and have some go through the ups and downs of this game of baseball. But it's been great to watch the joy that they have, just being creative and again just having fun and interpreting the game the way that they are seeing it in that moment. So it's been something that I'm learning a lot of the patience side of it, and then also the understanding of when you're going to coach some of the kids that, okay, well, you almost have to you have to really start from the foundation of where they are at in their career, because that's really where they are. And it's that part of that has been really exciting to see, some of these teachable moments kind of catch on. And then you see the same kind of situation or, a change in mechanics or whatever the situation might be that comes up, the adjustment is made, and that's a lot of fun to see. But then, obviously seeing them make a catch in the outfield, just even putting the bat on the ball where, maybe it's been a couple of games where they just haven't gotten a pitch to hit or whatever, and then they make that contact and you see them sprint down to first base, and just a smile on their face that either they hit the ball, hard and they got on base with a base hit, or they hit the ball hard and it was just like, man, I just missed it. So it's, it's just a whole group of, beginning emotions that they're getting from playing the game, which has been fun to watch.
So do you think when you walk back into a major league clubhouse, let's say in August, that you are going to look at things differently?
Yeah.
you want to say yes, but you also understand that I'll speak for you. You want to say yes, but you also understand that you've been around major league teams enough where you just know what it is. It's the rhythms of a major league team, a major league club, major league.
Yeah.
It is apples and oranges. We would all love it to be exactly like what you say, like the kids being so happy that little Johnny made contact after
Yeah,
not doing it all year.
Yeah. And that's the one. That's the one part. Like I just think it's the the kind of the beginning stages of who knows, right? Making it to the big leagues is literally half of 1% of the population. So not to deter anybody, it's but as difficult as it is, but it also gives you the perspective of how special it is. So I think that part of it for me is something that I've always had that perspective of being able to put on a major league uniform and feel pretty fortunate to do that. But I think also watching the kids where they're at right now and just how much fun they're having in the moment and in that day, and even how bummed out they are about a rain out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sometimes
Rainouts were the worst.
You're not gonna get I don't know. I'm too many guys that are gonna be like, all right, well, we got at least a day off. In the big leagues, it is pretty nice when you do get a rain out, but then you gotta make it up somewhere. But the just again, it's the short window of time to be able to play this game at whatever level is taking those moments and understanding how special they are. And that's something that I think that going back into hopefully going back into a major league clubhouse and being fortunate to be able to do that, that's something that the perspective will it might be a little hopefully it's as I get older, right, we start getting more emotional and sentimental. So I don't want to be out there on the mound.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guys that, like, when they announce we're getting a rain out, everyone's like, yes, a day off. You're like, what? No, I must play.
No. Yeah, we must play. We have to play. We'll play a doubleheader.
Let them play. Let them play. All right. So that's still the plan is still in place.
Yeah. Still in place. Been throwing. It's been going well. Working out. It's been feeling healthy. So just continue to keep trending in that direction, and a couple more months here of building up and get into a good position to go play.
Have you, in your preparation, have you looked in? Have you know how to get ready for a season? But this is a little bit different, and
right.
And obviously, we have, and I'm not saying this is apples to apples, but you have these guys who signed late. The Jordan Montgomery, he started off good, and Blake Snell didn't not start off good. And we have, it is what it is. Have you taken a hard look into, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how to do it. This is how to prepare for this moment. And I don't know. I would imagine that the timeline is what you probably want to like do a showcase or work out like in July or something. Is that?
Yeah, it would probably be in July at some point. But I'm still shooting for that August, September. So it would be those, 2 months of playing. So I think that right now it's in the stages of long toss and getting the train back on the track, so to speak, as far as preparation wise. And that's been something that's been going very well. So I think as this progresses, I'll start to gain a little bit more clarity of what direction to take this as a what position, relieving, starting, wherever it might be, as we get closer to August. So listen,
the way that they're falling off.
I hate to see it though. I hate.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
It's you're gonna be making like you're gonna make like the Roger Clemens contract. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do hate to see it. So before I want to talk to you about, because we've had multiple podcasts now. We have Ben McDonald on, Rich. He was awesome talking about it. Kenley, multiple guys, and there's a power ranking of reasons for the injuries. But first, speaking of Kenley, your name came up in a press conference. When we were talking about Kenley complaining about the baseballs, this is what Alex Cora said. All right. Your response. I mean,
yeah.
I honestly don't remember you complaining about baseballs 2 years ago, but
Yeah, I don't know if I was complaining about them 2 years ago. I've definitely complained about them though. There's no doubt about that. And there's definitely I think going back to 16, if you go back to 16 through I don't know, even 24. So the baseballs, the unfortunate part is that they haven't been able to figure out a way to stitch the baseball consistently, by a machine that would make it, it's the same as the next baseball, right? So if you got a dozen baseballs in a box of baseballs, you could have, 5 different baseballs in that dozen, or you could have all 12. All 12 are going to be different. All 12 baseballs are going to be different. You're going to find some discrepancy within each baseball, and that's because they're done by hand. And they haven't been able to find a machine that can invert the final stitch of the baseball to keep the seams, from coming out of the baseball. That's what I was told back in 2017, I believe. And the issue with the baseballs over from 17 to present day 24, was just the frequency that they were leaving the ballpark. And I think the inconsistencies with, the stitching for the pitchers. And we saw that, I believe, now I'm not getting my date correct or year correct. I think it was 19. It was either 18 or 19 when AAA, which I was extremely happy that they did, because again, the minor league baseball was so different.
Oh yeah.
When I was coming up.
I remember. Well, I remember a pitcher told me they took the core of the baseball, of minor league baseball, major league baseball, and they dropped it, and one just fell to the floor and one bounced up.
Sure.
So anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. That's part of, obviously, I think some of the issue that was going on, or is going on, with the just the overall design of the baseball, or the inner workings of the baseball. So it was either 18 or 19 when AAA went to the Major League Baseball. And again, like I said, it was such a good move for baseball to do that, because now you don't have this kind of what would you say, where you have to adjust as a pitcher to that. Yeah. Well, you have to adjust when you come up from AAA to the big leagues to that baseball, because it's a different feel. It's leather. The AAA baseball at the time was more of a bonded leather, right? So it wasn't exactly, I don't believe it was 100% leather. And you had a different feel for it. And the minor league baseball you could throw, it would actually hit the dirt and it wouldn't scuff. So it was made, you might say it was made maybe better because you could keep the ball in the game. With a Major League Baseball, if it hits the dirt, it's out of the game, but it also, rips the leather, or creates a scuff on the leather. Anyway, my point was that when, in conjunction with AAA going to the Major League Baseball, home runs went up like 1,000%. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
So there is no doubt in my mind that, it's undeniable. And then, that something's different with the baseball. And then as far as, the feel and the different, stitching on the baseball, for the pitchers, it wasn't consistent, with the product. Like every time you would get a baseball, switch the baseball out, it's
different. Well, one of the things Kenley was complaining about was that they weren't rubbed up. So he's getting a bunch of, as he called them, pearls. It's just and there was, and this has been, we had Strom on last year, and he was like, you put your hand in a bucket of balls and you're getting something different every time you put the hand in the bucket of balls. Again,
right.
There seems to be continuing problems. The latest, obviously, like I said, when you don't have any sticky stuff or any semblance of sticky stuff, or, and on a cold day on a ball that's not perceived to be rubbed up. And then, as Kenley said, he was getting better balls that he was warming up in the bullpen than he was actually on the mound. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a mess.
Well, I mean, but it's so, the other side of it is who can talk about this? Just the pitchers, really, because nobody else is using that tool. Nobody else is using that tool on a daily basis, so they don't understand. It's not going to say like, oh, well, who cares? Just use the baseball. Well, it matters because, every, now, obviously we can measure it through TrackMan and other devices, but with every, degree of movement that we're getting on the baseballs, it does matter if the baseball, you could throw a sweeper at whatever, 14, 15, 15 inches of sweep on it, and a difference, and it catches a different seam, and then another baseball will catch, same grip, different seams on the baseball, and we'll move 17 or 18 inches. So it does matter, with the consistency of the product that the pitchers are using. And I also think that it matters when, you're pitching in a game in Texas in April and it's hot and humid, as opposed to a game in Boston in April when it's cold and wet and, dreary out or whatever. So the grip, the environment is going to dictate the grip for the pitcher, right? Now, this is where I think baseball wants to divide pitchers and put them against hitters, and say, well, if you're enhancing the grip for a pitcher, which this isn't the case, the pitcher, all a hitter wants to do is get their A swing off. All a pitcher wants to do is get their A pitch off. So, in any climate, the hitter is allowed to use whatever they want to be able to achieve the grip that is appropriate for them to get the A swing off. But that's not the case for the pitcher, right? Mm-hmm. But why is that? Why that doesn't seem to make sense to me. It's the same reason for golfers who use golf gloves, because their hands sweat. Maybe some player sweats more than the other player, and is that an unfair advantage? Why can't they have the same grip as the guy whose hand doesn't sweat as much? You know what I mean? It just makes its logic sense that we need to come together and find a product. And on top of all this, baseball has been working, Major League Baseball has been working with DuPont. They've been working with Chalkless, a company that's here out of Massachusetts. I think Dan Duquette is working with them, and trying to come up with a solution to make a consistent baseball, whether it's in Seattle, where it's 65 degrees all year long, or you're in Boston in July and it's 100% humidity and you're sticking to your seat, right. Your nice red comfy hot seat down the third base line.
Yeah. It's but you hit the nail on the head. It's like, why can't we all get together? Like, this is the problem. Is that it's like, and this is the problem I think across the board, is that why can't we just all get together and just reach some common sense with this stuff?
I mean, yeah, and it's right there in front of it's right there for everybody to get together and do it. And there is a solution out there, or something that can be done. And talking with multiple hitters and pitchers on both sides, everybody, has been in agreement to saying, yes, something needs to be done in order to create a product that, achieves the same feel on the baseball, no matter, again, if you're in Chicago in July or you're in Boston in April, right? So completely the environment dictates the grip on the ball. And when that environment keeps changing and all you're using is that rosin supplement, I think something needs to be done with the baseball in order to make a more consistent grip. And again, like I said, with golfers use golf gloves so the glove doesn't slip out of their hand, so they can achieve an accurate shot. Hitters can use whatever they want to be able to. If hitters just used wood and rosin, home runs would decrease by a tremendous amount. You'd see more, hit and runs. You'd see more bunting. The game would completely change. It would change. But I think as far as trying to create and that's been my argument. Why is a hockey puck a hockey puck? A basketball is a basketball, and a football is a football, but a baseball, it's a baseball, but you get a dozen different or 12 different balls in a dozen. So I don't know what the solution is, but I like I said, Major League Baseball has been trying to work with companies. They brought baseballs around and said, hey, will you play catch with these? Try these baseballs out. Now that was, I think, in 2021 when they were doing that, and then that initiative kind of went away and stopped. But I don't understand why it did. I don't understand, because they knew that something was, needed to be done, and then, maybe it all came down to money.
But it's, you say, well, how are we going to get solutions to this? And I joke about what Alex Cora said about, hey, no players. Ken Lee talked, but no players really talked. Except maybe for Rich, 2 years ago. But he's right. I mean, this is part of the problem, is that when Ken Lee talks, yeah, everyone can say, oh, well, Ken Lee, he's making excuses, whatever it is. But the real thing, and I've heard it from different pitchers, the murmurs, whether it's, and this is important to have people like you, to have people like Ken Lee, to have people who are secure in themselves, to say, hey, listen, we're not just throwing stuff against the wall here.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm trying to figure out, a everyday kind of, something that you can relate it to. What is relatable to this situation?
I think you came up with some good ones already, though. The golf,
yeah,
the
golf. Well, even other sports, right? Yeah, and I mean, if we look at a hockey stick over the course of the history of how that's evolved, right? If you go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you pick up a hockey stick, a wooden hockey stick, right? No grip on it. And then you go to one of the, carbon fiber hockey sticks they're making now. The weight has changed, the flex, the kick point. They're completely redesigned everything in a hockey stick in order to create a better shot for the player. And the grip on the stick is, completely siliconed all the way down the whole shaft of the stick. So how does that, they've made improvements in other sports, and baseball hasn't, right? Now, how come pitchers can't be golfers and have their own baseballs, right? Well, hitters can pick their own bats. They can have their own bat companies.
right.
They can, right? But what about pitchers? Why can't pitchers say, I want to be Rawlings, I'm Wilson, I'm Titleist, I'm TaylorMade? Why is that? What's the issue with that?
Well, it all comes, what it all comes back to, and this is, which is
Money!
money. You do that again. That's pretty
No.
money. So this is where I have the Cuba Gooding Jr. show me the money clip. All right. Well, we're solving the world's problems one step at a time. That was the first one. The second one is, Rich, I'm going to ask you the way that I've asked other people, which is the power rankings of reasons for these pitchers' injuries. Now, usually when I ask this, the person I ask it to gives me their top one, and then we never get to number two, but we know there's a 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. So, for instance, you have the pitch clock, you have the lack of the sticky stuff, so you have to grip the ball harder. You have pitchers obsessing over velocity and torque from a very early age. You have, I don't know, a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
So you're a student of the game. What is your power ranking? What would
Volume, amount of throwing, the amount of throwing that is going on with, in conjunction with the chase and velocity, not only the chase and velocity, but the chase and, enhancing, not enhancing. I don't want to use that. It's not the correct phrase, but making their abilities, maximizing their abilities. But the volume really is the number one issue. So if you're just playing catch and you're working on a throwing program, as a starter, we'll go as a starter. And you have your 5-day program. Maybe day one, you're just playing light toss or, throwing balls in during batting practice just to get your arm moving a little bit. Day two, you're playing a little bit more of a game of catch, maybe stretching out to 90 feet. Some guys, that is their bullpen day, and some guys have their bullpen day on day 3. And day 3 is another heavy workload day to, pick up the ball and just putting more stress on your arm on that day 3. So that's 2 days removed from a start that maybe you threw, let's just use 100 pitches as an example. But really in reality, it's probably closer to 200 pitches with the warm-up pitches that you've thrown, and then also in between innings, and then your warm-up pitches for the game. And then day 4, the day before you start, you're probably playing light catch again, and then you're back to another heavy workload day. But what I've seen and what is going on is in those days in between. Now that's just like a normal kind of abbreviated talk on like a 5-day throwing program, right? And then, but what I have seen is the increase in the weighted ball usage. So now you're coupling your throwing program with more volume, because you're going to go and you start off with doing a weighted ball kind of warm up, or some throwing program with the weighted balls before you actually go out and throw a baseball. But I don't know how to quantify that volume of putting a 1 or 2 pound ball in your hand and doing reverse throws, or putting a 9-ounce ball in your hand and doing some modified throws against the wall or with a catcher, and what that stress and how much stress that actually is, what the equivalent of that stress is to just one throw, right? So if you can equate one throw of a baseball to one throw with a 9-ounce ball, so the baseball is 5 ounces, and the weighted ball is 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 5 being a baseball, and then onward up from there too. You have 11-ounce, 12-ounce, and higher. But how much stress is that putting on your UCL? I was just reading, I think it was it Merrill Kelly just went down with a Terry's minor strain in his shoulder. Now, I have no idea what everybody's doing for throwing programs, but the amount of UCL injuries that are happening is an epidemic, right? I mean, that could be, yeah. And what we're seeing at the major league level is only what we're seeing at the major league level. So what's going on in the minor leagues, what's going on in college, what's going on in youth baseball, and this chase for something that we're kind of getting off track about what pitching is. It's not throwing. We're not just throwers out on the mound. We got to get back to the sense of changing speeds, being deceptive, understanding how to move the ball in and out of the zone, up and down, back and back of the plate, front of the plate, and pitch, and get back to pitching. And I think that if we make that quote unquote sexy again, instead of chasing velocity, I think that's something that may help. And the other side of it too is like, well, if you can do it at 100 miles an hour, isn't that better? Yeah, of course it is. Of course yes, it is. It's way better, and that would be awesome. But I just don't see that. There's great stories out there of guys that I was throwing 80, and then I got on this program, and now I'm throwing 90, 93 miles an hour. Well, what you don't see sometimes in those testimonials is that the kid was 17, had never been in a weight room, had never done really any training in his life, and naturally that's going to happen. Kids are going to get bigger, faster, stronger if they haven't done any work before. Well,
that's why, not to interrupt, but that's the thing about Tommy John surgeries, which I learned a long time ago. It used to be like guys coming back from Tommy John, they're like, oh, you're throwing harder, you must have a magical ligament. No, it's because you were able to train your body in a way that you had never trained your body before.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Well,
I did it.
Yeah, you did it. Right.
Well, I mean, being able to have that time to really be able to get your steering wheel, your shoulder, strong and overall in a great position to maintain the workload for an entire season is the key, and that's really the secret to longevity, is that shoulder health. Elbow issues, when they do occur, and they happen for a multitude of reasons. Mine happened because of fatigue and an increased amount of volume. When those two things meet and intersect, you're going to have an injury.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing is I'm not 100% sure if it's the increased. Everybody wants to. I think there are benefits to the weighted balls. I think there are benefits, but
If
I
you
don't
do it
think
the right way.
right. If you do it the right way, but then if you were going to do a weighted ball program and I was going to do a weighted ball program, those are going to be two different. Everybody is different, so every program has to be completely designed for that individual. And I'll say it here as an announcement. First time, what I think baseball should do on the youth level, after being in it for a couple months now, is go to a 4-ounce baseball for 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, maybe even the 10-year-olds. I don't know, but I think that the 4-ounce, they're throwing a 5-ounce baseball. That doesn't change all the way through till you get to the big leagues. I mean, obviously, when you get to it's the same ball in the big leagues as it is in youth baseball,
Right?
As it is in Babe Ruth or whatever. But I think that it starts at an early age too, and it's going to be a huge overhaul of the system as a whole. I'm not 100% sure what the
I like that
solution
though.
is, but
I think that you talk about volume. Think about this, Rich, and I forget who had surfaced this to me. A lot of the guys getting hurt now are of a generation of a generation where it had become more specialized in terms of like you said, throwing baseball year round, throwing baseball harder. I mean, we're talking about, and I'm not picking on, like a Spencer Strider, right? Whatever, he's mid-20s, guys, mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s.
yeah.
Those guys coming up had a different mindset and a different routine and a different regimen and a different expectation than you did when you
Sure.
came up as a youth
Yeah.
baseball player.
Yeah. No, coming up, it was throw strikes. That was it. I mean, if you had to pick one phrase, right? And then I think if you want to say the generation that is kind of, the last 5 years, is throw harder.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much throw strikes, with these guys. I think it was, but again, to me, like, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm not like, wow, this is awesome seeing guys like what the human body can do. But now I think we're running into kind of a fork in the road of how much.
What's your limits? Tanner Houck was
Yeah.
on the podcast. He said, and this is a guy who has insane stuff. Like
I mean, Tanner could go out there and be 96, 97. He just pitched a complete game the other day. I watched it. It was beautiful. 92, 91,
Right.
sinkers, ground balls.
But he came on and he
movement.
said, and this was the end of spring training, he said, I think that the human body is reaching its physical limits. And and this is a guy who breaks off a slider like probably nobody, like, except for you. He's right-handed version of you. So it's but
a little bit of stuff. He's got
I
better
looked
stuff.
it up the other day. Like well, okay, speaking of which, like sweeper. So if I go to Baseball Savant and I look at most the biggest horizontal break from sweeper, like, you're at the top of the list last year.
Yeah.
And then so you would have a good perspective of what Ben McDonald said, because Ben was really good. Like, I really enjoyed talking because he took the time to really ask people, look into stuff. He rattled off each topic. So one of the things I've asked guys who's tried to learn a sweeper, and they said I stopped because it was hurting my elbow. And I'm not saying it hurts your elbow all the time, like obviously you one, But
Yeah. Well,
this
I
is
also I've had two in when I was 39, I had the internal brace put in.
right.
And was the first pitcher to come back and actually successfully pitch in the big leagues with the internal brace. And then in 2011, I had Tommy John surgery. So, you know, injuries are going to happen. That's like but to try, to see guys going down at the rate that they're going down, it is disheartening, because I think also that it's baseball is a great game. It's a lot of fun and it's a beautiful game, but it's also now putting a bad kind of marker on the game for the youth, right? So now what we're seeing is this trend of kids that were, the drop off of 80% after Little League. I mean, I don't want to see that go higher. I don't want to see that go into the 85, 90%. Right. But we're doing that with the health of baseball already, by cutting minor league teams, by cutting the draft, by eliminating jobs in baseball that, otherwise people who wanted to be, that's my cat. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
Was my cat meowing. He agrees with me. Yeah.
It's good. You have a studio audience. It's nice. You take it next level. I like this.
Yeah. But I think that so now with the injuries, where again you could be in Provo, Utah, and not have the opportunity to see, Mookie Betts or a player, a first round pick, a elite player that someday in the big leagues come through your town and say, wow, I get to see, one of the best major league players ever. Stand here at this play, whatever, or just even other jobs in general, a general manager, somebody who got an opportunity to run the concessions, somebody who, worked concessions, somebody who took tickets, maybe that sparks something for a kid that says, I want to get into baseball. Well, it's gone now, that's gone. So, let alone, the uniform issue. And these are things I know we joke about it, but it's the big leagues. It's the big leagues. Do better, be better. It's just not, that's the frustrating part about it for me, because it's almost like a joke. And it's unfortunate because, it's, I don't know. It's tough to see where the health of the game is going, as opposed to, where it should be thriving. At the youth level, and we're talking here about injuries, and I don't want to sit here and have this conversation. It stings, to see it happening. But what, again, back to your point, the original, what is the solution for it? I am not.
You had some good solutions.
Bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
But you were saying, what was Ben saying? Well, I'm interested because he.
Oh well, he was, he was just talking about, he went down the list really of, you have the lack of sticky stuff because you have to now grip the ball harder, right? Mm-hmm. So it's more torque. The pitch clock was, Kenley actually had a very good case for the pitch clock, and obviously he had to rush things up, but he didn't just say, oh, he's making everyone rush. He talked about the recovery time, the oxygen that your muscles need to get, replenish themselves. And especially when you're trying to throw harder than ever and do it, boom, 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 which again, to me, it was a good way to look at it. It made sense. So, and of course, Ben McDonald was the GOAT, in first round overall pick.
I remember getting that. That was the chase for that rookie card. That was a great rookie card.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing. It's like, the throwing hard, and but he went down the list, and again, he mentioned the sweeper, but it's not only the sweeper, it's manipulating the baseball. And one of the things is, and I think that he had a great analogy for it, if you're doing something that you're not used to doing, and then you do it, and that's, your body's not going to be equipped to do it a lot of times, right?
Right.
And we're all chasing, the one finger shit kicker or whatever it is. It's like, we're all chasing the magic pitch, and we love it. We love when pitching ninjas like, look at this. I just saw a thing Sam Dykstra wrote for MLB.com about Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens has this hybrid pitch, right? So we're all coming up with this. Well, that's all well and good, but when you have a guy throwing something that his body isn't used to throwing, it has to enter into the equation at some point, I think.
Oh yeah, because you haven't, especially when you add the amount of intensity and torque and everything that the forces that you're putting on your elbow and your not just your elbow, I mean your knee, your hip, your back, your shoulder. I think a lot of the main talk for pitchers getting injured, we're always going to go right to the elbow. But how many guys are going down with back issues or lat issues or knee issues because you're not only intensifying the torque on your elbow but your shoulder, I mean everywhere else in your body.
Well, that's what Kenley was saying about how he used the weightlifting analogy. If you're lifting weights and you said hurry up, power, like do it, and then your form's going to be a little out of whack the more you hurry up, and the pitch clock isn't going to go anywhere. I think we are in agreement. Maybe you didn't need to shave off the 2 seconds.
I totally I had obviously again I'm still always going to be against the outcome of the clock. Right. I'm not against the clock. I'm against the outcome of the clock because somebody who walks into Fenway Park and sits down the third base line, pays $150 for a ticket. Here comes, Rafi Devers coming up to hit. It's a 3-2 count. Oh, strike 3.
Yeah.
What? What? I paid for that. So I think that
but it made no sense. It made no sense, Rich.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they can make a case for the pitch clock. What they can't make a case for is, all right, we get it. Everyone got used to the pitch clock.
Yeah.
Fine. Number one, let's take a breather. And this is another thing Kenley said, and I agree with him. Let's take a breather. It's not get prideful. What worked, what didn't. Is the time that we've set the correct time? And number two, why we all can accept it. We've gotten used to it, certainly more in April than October.
Sure.
Then why are you asking us to get used to 2 more seconds off? Like it means all that is going to do is going to exacerbate the injury problem. I mean, and to Kenley's point and to what you're saying is, I think that has something to do with it. And, is there a liability issue here? You know what I mean? Honestly, at the end of the day, it's that's what he said. An average major leaguer, whatever, 3.5 years in the big leagues. And that's another problem I have, and where you hear some people in baseball and they're like, well, the pitches are better than ever. People are getting more of a chance than ever because they're able to become something that they would never have become because of all these different measurements and mechanics and everything else. But the problem with that, okay, well, you're getting to become better, whether you're a major leaguer who's already there and becoming better, or someone who's not going to be in the major leagues and become a major leaguer, fine. But what is the toll that is going to take down the line? And that, I guess, we don't know. So
no, you don't know. And I think at the other side, are guys ready, or are we bringing guys up too fast? Are guys getting rushed to the big leagues because
938 pitchers last year.
Yeah, wow.
In the big leagues.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, I don't, what are we valuing? Is it the progression of getting the player ready? And obviously from the business standpoint, it's W's at the end of the day, and we need, guys that are going to provide innings. You need to cover almost close to 2,000 innings for a year, right? So you're going to have to find the arms to do that. but seeing the guys, rushed up to the big leagues, on one end you have the player who's excited because like, I'm not going to say no, I'm in the big leagues and this is awesome. But again, if they're another year of development or 2 years of development, and again, this is where it comes into cutting out the minor league teams. And guys are jumping from, maybe what the rookie ball league now, or whatever the development league that they're calling it, to AA, and then from AA to AAA or AA to the big leagues. I mean, the intensity that goes from pitching in a backfield game, obviously you try to create that in your mind. You try to create the environment and bring that same kind of, intensity that you would have in a major league setting, but just putting yourself in there with the fans and the moment and everything, it kind of, raises your level of effort without you even really knowing it. Right. So now you're already putting more torque on your shoulder, your elbow as a young player, and you might see a spike in your velocity even when you get up to the big leagues because of, obviously getting that kind of juice from playing in the environment, which you wouldn't get in rookie ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So,
By the way, has any of your youth baseball players' uniforms ripped sliding this year?
No, they're actually, no, I'm not gonna.
I just
No,
checking. Just checking.
Yeah, the uniforms. We have quality control here in Milton.
That's good. That's good.
National.
That's good. All right. Hey, listen, I appreciate it. We saw, as we always do, we've solved a lot of problems today.
Yeah.